This is Steve Robbins. Welcome to the Get It Done Guys, quick and dirty tips to work less and do more. Listener Andreas from Munchen writes in, I really enjoy the little humorous side stories you create to enforce your topics. These make your podcast special and easy to listen to. How do you do it? Is it just genius? Oh, well, Andreas, I'm so modest that I would never claim that it's genius, or at least it isn't just genius. Once upon a time, Harvard Business School hired me to help redesign their curriculum. Step 1, learn how human beings learn. So I spent a year reading everything the human race knows on learning theory. Stories figure prominently. So, let's step behind the curtain and join me for the storytelling journey. Humans remember stories. According to the book Making Connections by Jeffrey and Renata Kane, humans have two separate memory systems. The one we usually think of is the taxon memory system, and that's the one that remembers words and ideas, abstractions, facts, and figures. It's the one that keeps forgetting your boyfriend, girlfriend, spousal equivalent, or polyamorous family unit's birthday, because taxon memory requires study, repetition, and effort to use. Memory system number 2 is the locale memory system. It's always on. What did you have for dinner last night? Where? I'll bet you can remember these things easily, and you didn't require rehearsal. You didn't have to stop and think, oh, Steve is going to ask me this in his podcast tomorrow. Your locale memory system records how you move through space and time. It records the story of your life effortlessly. You can sit in a darkened theater watching oil tankers explode as supervillain Magneto battles Professor X for control of the X-Men, and you can remember the plot in detail. That's because your locale memory system remembers stories, and it doesn't really distinguish between your life story and the story of the X-Men. More on that in part 2. Make your communication vivid and memorable by using stories to activate the locale memory system. Let's stop and reflect for a moment. What are you thinking about, and which is more vivid in your mind right now? The idea of the locale memory system, or the image of exploding oil tankers and battles for control of the X-Men? See? It's working already. Start with plot. I start planning my stories with the plot. I mean, let's face it, in a tips podcast, it's pretty darn easy. The plot is the tip. With other kinds of presentations, the plot could be a course of action that you're recommending, or what you fear will happen if the company doesn't take action, or how global warming will lead to the zombie apocalypse. A plot on its own doesn't engage people. Humans need reasons for things. I mean, we basically would be happy to spend our days lounging around Caribbean beaches, munching bananas and mangoes, drinking fruit-flavored beverages, and laughing and dancing with our friends. If we're going to distract ourselves from that, say by listening to a tip about making a to-do list, there better be a darn good reason. What's in your mind right now? The idea that a plot doesn't engage people, or images of palm trees, beverages, and dancing? Motivate with a question. How do you engage people? Well, have you listened to the Get It Done Guy episode on using questions? That's right, you ask a question. When people hear a question, they want to know the answer. So you start your story with an introduction that raises a question in your listener's mind. For Get It Done Guy episodes, listener Andreas sends in a question, so I just read the question, your curiosity is piqued, and you're ready for me to jump right into the content. But without a listener question, the introduction must raise the question. I use a framework from the book The Minto Pyramid Principle by Barbara Minto. It's the best book I've ever read on how to logically structure your writing, and it's also the most astonishingly expensive book I've ever read. Unlike me, Barbara Minto is a grandmaster at getting paid handsomely for her work. She rides in limos. I ride a rusted tricycle. The framework for creating a gripping introduction is situation, complication, question, and answer. You set up a situation by describing the scene. For a tip that deals with a real-world problem, I just describe the problem in story form. For a tip about combining all your calendars in one master view, I'd start with the situation. As a CEO, Bernice needs to be highly scheduled. She jots meeting reminders on her calendar, on sticky notes, and on the back of her little lace napkins, which is really tough to do. That's the situation. Now add a complication. A complication isn't necessarily bad, but it's the element that motivates the need for the situation to change. Situation. Bernice needs to be highly scheduled and she has notes everywhere. Complication. She's always losing appointments or double booking herself. The complication should be stated so that it raises a question in your audience's mind. In this case, the question is, well, how can Bernice stop being double scheduled? With this question in mind, the listener is primed to hear out the rest of the story. Yes, this is really manipulative stuff, but there's more good manipulation ahead because you want to be compelling, influential, and memorable so your audience remembers your material. We've covered the need for stories, creating the plot from your content and motivating the reader with a situation, complication, and question, which the story then answers. But that's just part 1, and we're out of time. So stay subscribed for part 2, where we discuss characters, story arcs, fictionalizing real life, and using humor in stories. By the way, do you see what I did there? The situation. You want to use compelling stories. We've covered a bunch of material, and we're out of time. The complication. But there's more stuff, and we're out of time. So the question that hopefully has arisen in your mind is, what else is there? And now that you're motivated to hear the answer, you'll tell all your friends to subscribe to the Get It Done Guy, and next week, you'll hear the rest. I'm Steve Robbins. Email topic suggestions and requests to getitdone@quickanddirtytips.com. I help high achievers accelerate or change careers by developing influence, persuasion, and leadership skills. If you want to know more, visit steverrobbins.com. That's STEVERROBBINS.com. Work less, do more, and have a great life.